Did you know there's a sequel to Hocus Pocus? Yes, but it's a book. Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. Yep, that's the title. Coming up, my spoiler-free review of Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. This is Reading Amok. Kim here, welcome to me and my books. Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel, written by A.W. Jantha, based on the screenplay by Mick Garris and Neil Cuthbert, with the story by David Kirshner and Mick Garris, released July 10th, 2018, and I will be reviewing it for you right now. God, those are a lot of names. Okay, for those of you who were not emotionally obligated to watch this movie at least once a year, Hocus Pocus is the story of a high school kid named Max who, along with his little sister and the girl he has a crush on, brings 3 evil witches back to life on Halloween night. The Sanderson sisters have to suck the lives out of all the children before sunrise to stay alive, and these 3 kids have to stop them. There's a talking cat, Bette Midler sings, it's awesome. The book Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel is just that. The book is 2 stories, the first story being a novelization of the movie, and the second story being the sequel that takes place 25 years later involving Max's daughter. Right, so while I enjoyed reading a childhood favorite, I did not enjoy reading a book that didn't respect me enough to try. That is the headline of this review, I guess. That being said, it was nice to have some diverse representation in the second half of the book / the sequel. We'll get there. Let's dig a little deeper. My biggest issue with this book was with the writing itself. The story, for the first half of the book anyway, was already there. Like, it wasn't a new idea, it's novelizing a movie. Which isn't an excuse to be lazy. Like, you still have to write well and with purpose. You still have to tell an already existing story in a good way. The way the story was retold felt obligatory. Like, I'm going to recite the story to you, throw in some beloved quotable one-liners, and call it a fun experience. No, that doesn't work. You still have to write. It felt very surface level, like I don't feel like I learned more about the characters or the story, which there's so much potential for with a novelization. You have the opportunity to dig deeper, to expand on things you don't have time for in a movie. But no, we got pure surface level story. Nothing new, nothing more. Kind of a bummer. I also felt like the beginning was really choppy. Like the way the past prologue was worked in with the present story didn't work for me at all. I would have much preferred a legitimate prologue of the Sanderson sisters' original time and what happened with Binks and Emily and everything that set up the story. I didn't dig the flip-flopping back and forth between past and present. Maybe some people will like that. Me, not so much. I really like when a book can play with the timeline. I like when a book can flip-flop when they do it right. This one just kind of went back and forth like a weird time-traveling tennis game that wasn't interesting. Okay, like, it just didn't work for me. As for the actual story, the sequel half anyway, it was okay. Fluffy YA story, nothing too deep or intense, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, it is what it is. I really liked the playful puns, which were often used for chapter titles. While they were a little corny, I like the silly play on the word witch, like the tagline on the cover is "Witch, please," and like, yeah, it's cheesy, but also clever and silly and fun. That, oddly enough, yeah, totally worked for me, which I wasn't expecting. I thought I'd be annoyed by it, but it was kind of funny. That's just the playful fun I was hoping would be the entire book, I think is why it worked for me, was because I was hoping that I would have that clever fun thing to it, but it was there though in the silly and funny play on words sometimes, so yay. I feel like the pacing wasn't awesome. A little too fast for my taste. I think I would have preferred a full novel for the sequel instead of a half novel. Then it would have given more time for character depth and some exploration of the Sandersons' backstory and so on. Like, you could have done something cool, but yeah, I also felt like there was a lot of repetition with Poppy's inner monologue. Poppy is the main character of the sequel half of the book. She's Max and Allison's daughter. And she kind of repeats the same feelings over and over again with the same words in the same fashion, time and time again. I was very annoyed. I did like hearing Max's inner monologue about his feelings for both Allison and Danny. In the retelling bit, he really does care about his sister, and that was sweet. And I wanted more of that. I really did. Like, I thought that was cool to, like, because in the movie you don't get his inner monologue. You get, oh, like, he's the big brother that's too cool to hang out with his little sister, you know. And in the book, he reflects on that a little bit, and I wanted more of that. I thought there was a good opportunity for a lot of that, and we only got it sometimes, and I liked when we did get it. I like some of the new characters we got in the sequel. However, I felt like Travis, the best friend, was sort of pointless. I really wanted to like him, but he seemed to only be there for comedic relief, which felt forced. Like, he didn't add to the story. His relationship with Poppy didn't add to anything. He was just kind of there to be quippy, and his quips just fell flat. Like, I wanted him to play an important role, and I feel like he didn't. Yeah, like, if you're gonna use someone for comedic relief, there needs to be a reason, and there wasn't a reason. Comedic relief is not a reason, I guess is my point. The characters overall were fine. They were fine, nothing particularly special, which is also a shame because it was kind of another missed opportunity. I felt like the relationship between Danny and Binks was rushed and kind of glazed over, almost like we had to rely on having seen their bond in the movie, which is really lazy. I also felt like there was too much focus on Sarah and her looks. Like, I got really upset, genuinely upset about this, and if I wasn't reading it to review on this podcast, I would have DNF'd it when they kept harping on her slim waist. Like, I was so over it. Anytime the Sanderson sisters were being described, we get Winnie and Mary's hair, but Sarah got hair, waist, plunging neckline. She's slim, she's pretty. Like, you get the point. It was kind of disappointing to have this hyper focus on her looks. And, like, I get it. Sarah's the pretty one. But one of my favorite parts of the movie was Mary Sanderson and her hilarious facial expressions. So, like, I'm bummed that so much importance was placed on how good looking Sarah was. Like, ugh. That's just you're teaching kids the wrong thing. You're placing too much importance on this, and that's toxic. Like, I hate that. Okay, maybe that's a personal pet peeve, but like, ew, it's cringy. I liked the diversity of characters in the sequel portion of the book. We had solid LGBTQ representation, and we had a main character that was Black, so that was thoughtful. Two main characters that were Black. Oh my gosh, the best friend might have been Black, but they may not have talked about it enough. I can't remember now. Like, I'm already trying to forget this book, honestly. I'm sorry. Ugh, I don't want to say that, but I do have to say, though, that I liked that sort of representation wasn't a plot point. It was just what it was. Race wasn't part of any drama. Sexuality wasn't a motive for anything. It was just an attribute. It was one of the many things that made up who these characters were. A piece of the pie, if you will. It wasn't an entire identity. And honestly, I'm not sure if normalizing it that much is helpful for, like, accurate and relatable representation or not. But it was there, and it was casual almost in its existence. So take that for what you will. I will follow that up with, I am not the best person to judge or interpret representation. So I would very much love to hear from those of that culture or community who have read this to know if it was something you were happy to see, if it was done properly and respectfully. So comment away, if you will. Help me out a little bit with this because it's important. Like, let's be honest, this is an important issue, and I want to see representation done the right way. So let me know. Okay, so if you couldn't tell, I didn't really like the book. I wanted to like it. I wanted to love it. But it just fell flat. Had some pointless things going on and relied way too much on nostalgia instead of writing, which is a bummer because this could have been cool. And like relying on nostalgia only worked with the Full House reboot on Netflix. Nobody's going to be able to do that again, so don't bother. Give me something substantial. And this was just not it. All right, so to sum up, while the book is full of nostalgia, that's not enough to make it a good book. And so I wanted this, to be a good book. I had high hopes for it, but the lack of effort and misdirected focus just didn't allow me to have any fun, which is what this book should have been. It should have been fun, and it just wasn't. If you insist on a 5-star rating scale, I would give it 2, maybe 2.5 because of the representation out of 5 stars. It did have the representation, and I think that's like so important for just like different cultures and communities to be represented in a way that's just relatable and nice and in a normal way, not in a this is what the book is about way. Unless that is what the book is about, but that's not what this book is about. So it was nice that was just there and not used as a plot device, I guess. All right, so 2.5 stars out of 5 if you need that. There you have it. That is going to do it for my review of Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. Written by A.W. Jantha, based on the screenplay by Mick Garris and Neil Cuthbert, story by David Kirshner and Mick Garris. Hey, if you think this podcast doesn't suck, feel free to tell iTunes that. Leaving a review on iTunes is a huge help and is always appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. I think you're cool beans, and until next time, read freely.